Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy.
Since the spring games happened, has your thoughts on this team changed, and what was kind of your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like my takes on the team from before spring and after spring, it hasn't really changed that much, Taylor. When looking at it, I mean, you pretty much expected the biggest takeaway is obviously the offense. You definitely want to see it continue to click on all cylinders, especially with a new quarterback coming in Garrett Nussmeier, a guy who's been very experienced in this offense. And you look at Joe Sloan, even though he's taken on a new role, he's been there since the beginning with Brian Kelly. But the offense is continuing to click, and that's a positive. You really want to see that, especially when you're playing against the defense that has struggled last year, but they're also going to be playing very vanilla too in the spring game. So continuing to see that pace. One of the biggest strengths for this team is really the passing game, and that was on full display. So that was really good to see. Very disappointing to see some of the busted coverages in the secondary on the defensive side, but those are things that you could correct, and especially with Corey Raymond working with this group more and more, and really the safeties, the corners working more. So you hopefully continue to see that get worked on throughout we go to fall camp. So pretty much what I expected going in. Maybe not as much busted coverages, but still, it's pretty much my thoughts on the team haven't really changed from the beginning of the spring.
You know, speaking of defense, all the talk has been about the secondary because Corey Raymond's back and they were so bad a year ago, and then the D-line because of depth. But the linebacker core has kind of been a forgotten spot.
Mm-hmm.
But what were your thoughts on that group? Because it has potential to be a really talented group.
Absolutely. In fact, Taylor, I thought that was the biggest strength of the first team unit. Just seeing the first team defense go up against the first team offense. And I was really intrigued to see how Blake Baker was going to use Harold Perkins. I'm sure everybody is. But it was really good to see him, blitz a lot of times from inside linebacker. You saw he was able to recognize the swing pass coming out of the backfield to Aaron Anderson, and he pretty much really destroyed that play from the beginning. So it was really good to see Harold Perkins just kind of flying all over the place from different spots, especially at inside linebacker. So I love to see that, and I know Brian Kelly was pretty pleased with what he saw from Perkins through spring. And then obviously Whit Weeks was out there flying around, making plays. He was involved as well with the first team unit. And obviously you have a guy like Greg Penn, who's been a steady player for this football team. So really the linebacker core, I mean, just looking and comparing to, I know the secondary and the D-line has been kind of a disappointing. But you look at the linebacking crew, I think that's where you can really, put your hat on when you're talking about LSU on that side of the football right now.
As far as the offense goes, you talked about the bright spot there, and they've certainly been great, whether it's Kyren Lacy, Mason Taylor, Garrett Nussmeier. We know the big names, but who do you think has the edge now post-spring game at those receiver spots outside of Kyren Lacy?
And there's a reason why they brought the two transfers coming in, and C.J. Daniels and Xavier Thomas, and obviously everybody saw it in the spring game. Xavier Thomas caught the touchdown on the busted coverage. And, LSU's going to utilize a lot with Xavier Thomas just because of his speed on jet sweeps and on screens. And they've definitely utilized that a lot through spring with a short passing game. I know Xavier's going to be a big part in that. And I really like C.J. Daniels in the slot, too. He's big. He's physical. He can make some tight contested catches. And when you saw what he can do after the catch, he reminds me a lot of really Kyren in that aspect as far as yards after the catch and his ability to break tackles in the open field. So some kind of combination of C.J. Daniels and Xavier Thomas, I think you'll see a lot of that as your third guy.
Any young guys that stood out to you?
Yeah, there are a lot. And really, I think a big storyline, if you look at the defense side of the football, was that the second-team defense actually outperformed the first-team defense. And this is a guy I talked to you about last time I was on the show, and it was Deshaun McBride. And Deshaun McBride had a pretty good interception when it comes to red zone, and just he looks the part. He's long, he's rangy, but he's got kind of a confident, quiet confidence about him as well that I really like. And he definitely has the ball skills. He had 9 interceptions his junior year at Denham Springs, played wide receiver, so he's got some ball skills. And with this offense and their ability to score and put a lot of points on the board, you're not asking for your defense to be the 85 Bears defense, but you want your defense to be opportunistic. And this could be a guy that's a ball hawk that can get some interceptions for you that can really help that side of the football and help this offense set up in really good situations.
All right, I want to kind of shift from post-spring, because that's in the past, to moving forward. The transfer portal is in full effect right now. Obviously, Brian Kelly said that their main focus is going to be D-line. Now, they've already offered 4 different D-line prospects. You got Philip Blitty, who earlier has actually just committed to Auburn. Then you have Dominic Williams, C.J. West, and Simeon Barrow. I mean, they're not going to get all 3 of those guys realistically, but, I mean, what do you think their goal is, to get 1 or 2?
I would say get at least 1, but I think they're eyeing 1 too, just because of the bodies right now. You look at the defensive line. I mean, Jacoby Guillory is right now, you look at it, he's the only proven defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman you really have on your roster. So if you can get Simeon and CJ or Dominic, either one, 2, any combination of 2 of the 3 is going to really help this defensive line out, because you need at least 4 bodies really rotating when it comes to SEC play. When you go through a grueling SEC schedule, you need at least 4 reliable bodies right there. So if you can get at least 2 of them, it's going to help the situation a little bit more. But getting a guy like Simeon and CJ, and I mean, best case scenario, you get all 3, because I know you said Philip just committed to Auburn, but in any kind of situation, if you get at least 2 of the 3, Brian Kelly talked to us a whole lot about this is the only position that they're really going after in the transfer portal. So you certainly hope they can get at least 2.
Yeah, and I mean, I imagine he's going to bring these guys in to start right away.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you need those guys, because right now, I mean, Jalen Lee has played a little bit, but your only proven guy is Jacoby Guillory. I mean, LSU had to move guys from the offensive line to the defensive line in order to shore up depth right there. So you need at least 2 of these guys. And it's really good that Simeon, he's the top defensive lineman target in the portal. I mean, C.J. West has played, he's a 4-year guy. Dominic Williams is an all Big 12. I will mention guys. So these are guys that have played and have been productive. So if you can get 2 of these guys, that's basically the offer LSU is giving them, that they can be starters in this defensive front.
Now, Kelly talked about how their primary focus is obviously defensive line, but if there was one other spot outside of D-line that you think LSU could look to kind of dip into the portal, where would that be?
I would say maybe 2, just to look at. I know that Brian Kelly said that all he's really looking at is the defensive line right now. I mean, primarily the defensive tackles, because you do have a lot of options. That's one of the strengths of this defense, is the defensive ends. But besides that, the defensive tackles, I know this is going to kind of go out of the ordinary here, but maybe punter. I mean, because right now you look at it, and LSU is not really sold on their punter situation right now. So they have Bryce McPherson, who's actually another Notre Dame punter. He just entered the transfer portal. So that might be something to follow, and Bryce McPherson, get a guy that can come in and win the punter job, because right now they're not really sold at that position. And then maybe another position could be running back, just to kind of take an eye on, because right now you only have, and that's just for Trey Holly comes on board as well, you have 4 scholarship backs, and that's just Trey Holly rejoins the team. So if you're Brian Kelly, you might have to kind of look at that position as a position of need. You have Trevante Citizen available in the portal. He's a former Lake Charles Prep running back, and LSU the last couple of years, they've done a really good job of getting guys that were from Louisiana and went somewhere else and to get them come back. And Trevante Citizen could be a guy that they could look at. I know that's not their primary focus right now. Their primary focus is the defensive tackle position, but punter and running back could be something to keep an eye on.
It's funny, you said a little bit out of the ordinary, and you mentioned punter. I was actually going to ask you that next, because, Brian Kelly seemed less than pleased of Peyton Todd's performance. And then, Alabama yesterday actually just got a transfer field goal kicker, which is something that they have struggled with for years. So there are a lot of special teams players in the portal right now. And Jace, want to stick with the portal. You were talking about, guys coming in. We know about all the players that are leaving. I mean, last week it was kind of an exodus of guys, whether it was Ryan Yates, Jeremiah Hughes, Christian Braithwaite. I mean, we know the names. Not asking for a specific guy. I don't want to call anybody out here, but like if a position group, if there was a position group where if LSU got tight for numbers, could you see some guys entering that portal?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that just because you look with that mass exodus, right? The mass exodus you just mentioned. I think at that time LSU was up to about 88 scholarship players, and with that, with all like 5 guys there in the portal from LSU, you're down to about 83, and 85 is the number to keep an eye on. But you're trying to get defensive linemen to come in here just to fully ensure that depth is there on the defensive line. But I mean, you hate to see a couple of guys leave, especially in the secondary, especially that's a position where it's really out in the air, it's really wide open, especially look at cornerback. I mean, Jeremiah Hughes was a guy that played a whole lot last year. Ryan Yates was a guy that played a whole lot last year and actually made a pretty good defensive play against Ole Miss last year coming off the edge. So it hurts to have some of those guys leave, but at the same time, some of those guys are kind of getting buried a little bit in the depth chart, and you need guys right now. Your focus is on defensive line, so you need some bodies. So something has to give there, and that's what LSU decided to do.
Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.